how simple life really was. Instead of sitting around with family, there was individuals sitting around boxes with screens, and they forgot how to grow their own food. And hunting was replaced by practices which were cruel, and everything seemed to be divided by plastic made with petrochemical oil, which was extremely toxic. And these people also ran their cars on that oil, which polluted the air and the water and the soil. But the ones who benefited didn't care about the earth. They were only interested in how much the oil was worth. When they started running out, they started fighting for control to secure the world's supply. Petroleum was their goal, so they assembled their armies and their wars destroyed life. They hid the truth from the people, kept it out of their sights. And millions of people were betrayed by these lies, convinced to kill each other and watch each other die. Entire cultures were destroyed before our very eyes. We just sat around and watched the fire falling from the sky. But all the time we knew that it could happen to us. We were living in fear and we were on the same bus. By invading other people we created more enemies, but they believed that they were doing it to make themselves free. This is the world that I grew up in, so you understand my brain when it begins to spin. Searching for solutions, a better way to be, and I think much clearer when I begin to breathe. So I breathe. Breathe in the air. Yeah, take a deep breath. It's everywhere. Heal my spirit, heal my body, heal my soul. I know who I am, consciousness spinning through sacred air. it's everywhere. Heal my spirit, heal my body, heal my soul. I know who I am, consciousness spinning through sacred air.
Parce que j'étais une femme sauvage, j'ai pied. Never mind me, man. I'm just vibing here. There's no one to know one knows anyway. Ask the white dove. Kisses your entrance to my mind every time. Guess he likes to collect little hickeys. I don't know. I remain the same. Comatose anyway. It's whatever. Again, who am I, what am I? Look at my face, the eyes don't lie. If I was one with a smooth tongue used for fun, I take a look at myself and at myself why I got a thread that I'm holding on for sanity. My mind takes the things that are going on close to the soul and actually stepping on. These people are doing wrong, the list can go on and on for ages. Tangled up through mazes, as lost as a meal is pushed through a panther. I keep my eyes on those who pass by. They look to PM dawn, the quest for the answer. Mercy, mercy me, till I see the end of the human race's Grand Prix. Mr. Red knows I pose a threat. Yeah, I like to see him sweat. Dr. Vibe tends to get hypnotic. Reality thinks the Prince B is erotic. The magic wand seems to be misplaced. I can't see it if it's covered in lace. The best way to keep your word is not to give it. I don't make promises, cause promises die. But those who use hate just won't participate. So that's why I choose to use my eyes and stay comatose. Positive or negative impression on your brain, whatever remains, whatever stays the same, results from an inside view or perspective. Other than that, the sign of snaps from the strain. But what remains to be seen is how you choose to use your time. And still the point blank calculations unclear of whether your text can catch these lines or toss them to the side so you can't realize illusions only last till the scene is through. Approaching this scenario, what would you do? Lose your noodle or try some voodoo? Accept defeat, then what's the next phase? Rely on the brave, rely on the cockiest. The secret of any victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious and a comatose. Tell me a lot to keep my head straight, but views at the fronts like an unseen crime. I like to watch close and see what they might take. A tick from a top, a line from a rhyme, a leaf off an elm, a move might yell bold, an unseen realm. But what that realm holds is nothing. Nothing that makes sense. They walk with small talk, and I watch the consequence swell up and overflow into a large book. Maybe it's the undertow of what the time took to put together scenes, make it all seem clean. A pacified picture is a life being dreamed till it's tried by the spies. That's when they realize the rose ain't red and the vials ain't blue. But those that are swift will pinpoint the trip, and everybody else will think it's deja vu except the comatose.
And we're live. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to Lake County Magazine. I'm Terry Larson.
And Pete the Tax Guy.
And we are here to entertain, inform, enrage, and intellectualize.
And actually, I think we may enrage.
We might enrage a couple people today.
Yes. Maybe not our listeners, but the people who... Never mind.
Who will be the subject matter of the discussion.
Yes, exactly. So... And we did have a guest scheduled for 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, he's full of medicine and is unable to drive.
Antibiotic overdose.
Yes, from a dental appointment. So I can relate to that, unfortunately. So
yeah, I'm going to be heading there myself for my bad tooth.
We're going to reschedule him for a couple of weeks from now and go from there. So you're the one that leads in.
I'm the one that leads in?
Yeah.
I'm just doing a promo right now.
So anyway, folks.
Well, let's talk about... We do our every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. We talk about our week in review.
We certainly do that. So let me get my...
what was it that we did this week that was so amazing reviewing? It's worth reviewing?
I cleaned up the yard after
you did
coming
awesome.
back, evacuating.
Oh, yeah, we finally unpacked from being evacuated.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
We unpacked the Suburban.
Yeah, and that had most of all of our valuable personal possessions in it. So.
Yeah, but when we left, I threw everything out the back of the Suburban, which
was in the
Suburban. And I just literally threw it on the ground. And
this is 1986.
86 Suburban with a massive lift on it.
Lift kit. I mean, it's gigantic. So it holds all of our personal possessions.
So, but I threw all the old stuff we didn't need from our shed right on the ground, and it wasn't exactly neighbor friendly.
In an orderly fashion,
No,
and it certainly would get you reported to code enforcement.
Yes, yeah. But
if we left it there too long.
Yeah, I was concerned about our neighbor. I didn't want to make it look a mess.
No, that was the right thing.
So we finally got that.
I really appreciate doing that. Yeah, because we finally got things organized. Good.
Yeah, and let's see what else. Our friend and I had to drive to SAC on Saturday morning.
Yes, our friend Iraima.
Iraima.
Went back to Florida, West Palm Beach, and enjoyed her stay here very much.
She was one of the best guests we've had.
She
yes,
was, yeah. And she loved beautiful Lake County, and will probably come back. And so that was fun. You know, we kind of filled up our week with taking care of her and taking her around town.
Yeah.
Showing her. We took her all the way around the lake so she was able to see everything. And, of course, we had to take her up into Cobb to look at some of the destruction up there. You know, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's our privacy and blah, 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 but people need to see this in real life. They have to understand the reality of it. And, you know, this young lady lives in a very protective environment. And I think seeing that was an eye-opener for her, and it enabled her to be able to look at things a lot differently after that. And so we're very happy that, you know, we were able to share that with her. And hopefully everybody out there is going to be getting themselves back on track as soon as possible.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I had to go to a doctor's appointment down in St. Helena yesterday, the actual hospital and city. And driving through on the way to Hidden Valley and then through Middletown, I hadn't been down through the fire lines for a week or two, whatever how long it's been. And it kind of hit home after seeing it again, what really happened or what transpired. And in Middletown, there's a massive FEMA truck with a satellite dish on top for all their communications. There's nothing but CAL FIRE, PG&E, AT&T everywhere trying to still fix the power lines and the cable. And they're actually cutting trees along 29 towards Middletown, and these are massive trees. And
there's a lot of outcry about the tree cutting, but we'll get into that later. There actually is legitimate reasons for it.
Well,
in some cases.
Right. In this case, the tree was literally halfway down the side of the mountain heading towards the road, so they cut that, and they did their usual cut so it would fall onto the roadside. And so there's traffic delays there. So if you folks are going from Middletown to other areas, be aware that there are delays on 29 because they only have one lane open. But going through Middletown was kind of like realizing what really happened. Even though the street itself Main Street is okay, but you just peer around the corners and see it, it just hits home. And in all the affected areas where the fire really hit, they have signs saying hazardous.
Yes.
Go in at your own risk.
Yeah, there's hazardous. Obviously, there's air quality issues.
Right.
There's ash everywhere. There's toxic chemicals that have been pulverized. There's metals that have been liquefied. I mean, it's just not a very safe place. I have been up there with Haji Wharf, and we've been trapping kitties, and we were able to bring 2 of them out of there yesterday. And we're now trying to find the owners. So if you're missing an animal, please don't hesitate to check with animal control, with the various veterinary offices, particularly Dr. Wassam Memorial there on 175 in Lakeport, as well as the Middletown Veterinary Clinic and other places that you can guarantee that if there's an animal, they're going to either know about it or they're going to know who has it. So if you haven't gotten your animals back yet, there still is hope. We caught 2 yesterday in the traps, and they're beautiful, beautiful, poor scared kitties with little melted mustaches. You know, their whiskers were singed, but otherwise they were in really good shape. So a lot better than some of the cats we saw.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, there's so many there that are. There's over 100 cats still at the vets and the different locations. So go to Valley Pet Find. I think it's Valley Fire. Let me see if I can look it up on Facebook. There's a whole bunch of them. Valley Fire Animal Search and Rescue, Valley Fire Pet Find Reunited, Valley Fire Cat. I'm sorry, Valley Fire Pet Find, rather, not the reunited one. The reunited one's nice to go to, though, because it gives a list of all the animals that have been reunited with their families, and in some cases they were reunited and then passed away. But you know, we've lost a lot of animals in this thing. This is just tragic. So we will be up there continuously trapping cats in the Cobb area to be able to deliver those to hopefully their owners. And if they're community cats and you recognize these cats, just let us know, and we'll have them either put up for adoption or return them back to the neighborhoods that they came from. So that's what is up for the kitties right now, and we're going to keep trapping. We're going up again today. We're going to keep trapping until everybody's found their animal or they're convinced that their animal is no longer with us. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. So it's
I
just hard
can't
to
sleep at night knowing that they're wandering around up there and nobody's taking care of them.
Hard to deal with.
Yeah. So, you know, and people get their hopes up too. I mean, the cats we found yesterday were both in the same neighborhood where the worst fire was up on Gifford Springs, some of the worst areas. And we got 2 beautiful, healthy cats that were hardly burned. So it's definitely worthwhile.
Yes, it is. You're putting a lot of effort in, and there are other people who are trying to match your effort.
No, this was actually led by Haji Wharf. I'm
Right.
just jumping on board because she needs some help right now. But, you know, prior to that, I was up there feeding them.
Yeah.
But I find that this is a much better way to go because by trapping them, we're going to be able to either find them a home or get them into, you know, the hospital if they're injured and then return them back. So, alrighty. And we had a meeting yesterday.
Yes, you did. I didn't attend because I had other stuff to do, unfortunately.
Quite all right.
I had, before we get into that, I had a doctor's appointment at St. Helena.
That was terrible.
And I came to work about 10:30, hung out for 12:30. Unfortunately, didn't get any work done because our little car decided to stop running. And after...
Yeah, so Mercedes is getting tired.
Yeah, so anyway...
She's 13 years old now.
I was at the Lower Lake Post Office, and thank goodness our mechanic is down the street by about 100 yards. And he came over and tested the battery, and it was dead as a doornail. So he called AutoZone. They came literally right out, put the battery in, and the car started right up. And I do have to thank Chris for helping me out, taking me down to get the car, try to jump start it. We had absolutely no arc on the cable. So anyway, so that was the start of my great day. And then 12:30, I left
and
to
I
go.
was stuck in the meeting, so I couldn't leave
Yeah,
to
so
go rescue you.
yeah. So anyway, so I headed down to St. Helena. Had a orthopedic appointment down there, so I'm there in plenty of time because I was asked to get there so I can fill out all the new patient paperwork. And I go to the little window and says, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I have an appointment at 2:15 with Dr. So and so." And the lady kind of looked at me and says, 2:15? I said, yes. I think I confirmed 2 days ago, 2:15. Said, oh, well, your appointment was canceled.
After you drove for how long?
Canceled? Yeah, Dr. blah, blah, blah had an emergency surgery. And I'm like, and you didn't tell me there's no other doctor I can see? Nope. Well, you were called. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. No, I wasn't. So she went out and got the other lady that had more experience there, and she came out and said, no, you got a call. It's telling you to cancel your appointment. I'm like, no, I didn't. What number did you call? He said, well, 6416. Yes, ma'am, that's my office. What time did you call? 11 o'clock. No, ma'am, you didn't. I had no messages on our answer machine. I didn't have any messages written down for me. No, you didn't. Well, yes, we did. No, you didn't. What was your backup number? 6029. That's my home. Why would you call home during a business day at 11 o'clock? So, well, we didn't call. We called 6416. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. No, we didn't. Said,
right.
well, anyway. They contacted
the punchline.
The punchline is
before I have to punch you.
Okay. The punchline is we had no messages here. Went home about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Saw messages on my home answer machine, and there were 2 messages from them saying your appointment has been canceled. So
yeah,
obviously
on the home phone, and they sat there and told you it wasn't.
So
that
obviously
phone.
the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and so I wasted 2 hours of driving time, about another hour of trying to get there early, and plus the gas and everything else. So I wasn't very happy camper, and they knew it. I made it quite clear I wasn't very happy.
Because they have screwed us up on appointments so many times.
Yeah,
I'm so tired of it. You know, the network itself.
So anyway, I cheated. When I found out my appointment was canceled, came back to the office grumbling, and went home, grumbled some more, and then I went online to our where we get our private information for our medical needs. It has all your prescriptions, all yada yada, all that stuff that is there, and signed into that and realized that my MRI was there. So I was kind of a little bit surprised by that because usually they don't post stuff like that until you see the doctor. And
well, I guess they don't really plan on having you see the doctor, do they?
No, they don't. So anyway, so I looked at the results, and I'm far from understanding any of this, not legalese, medical lease. But I saw the some of the description. It kind of made sense. So I went to Google everything, and it appears like I have a full partial tear.
Ouch.
That's their language. And the extent of the tear is based on what the doctor finds out and does the testing. And then I have very little fluids in the bursac and other parts that make your rotator cuff and shoulder rotate. So based on what I've seen online, it appears that I may have to have surgery, which is the last thing I want, because that will take me away from my baseball for the first 2 months of next year. And that won't make me very happy. So life goes on, folks. We'll see what happens. I have another appointment now next Tuesday, and we'll see what happens at that point. So anyone out there who's ever had rotator cuff surgery, please call in at 701-6029. I'd be love to hear your horror stories or your good stories about your rehab or how long you had your arm in a sling, how uncomfortable it was, and all that good stuff. So it'd be interesting. So can we take a short break for a second? All we still have is I don't think streaming should be taking that long.
No, it shouldn't be. Did you refresh and everything?
I've multiple times.
Do you want me to pull up and see?
Yeah, see what you got. Because I actually went to the YouTube and it's still showing the same thing. Oh no, there it goes. Okay, never mind. We're almost there.
That's really old, though.
No, that's the.
I mean, what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know.
Was a long time ago.
Yeah, folks, we're still encountering probably about
stuck.
a 5 to 10 minute. No, we're back online now. A 5 or 10 minute delay. Actually, 20-minute delay. So we apologize for that. However, here's what we're going to be doing. I've been doing my research and being quote unquote frugal, as my wife can attest to after 20 odd years.
Yeah.
As I said.
You won't let me call him cheap. I have to call him
No,
frugal.
it's frugal. Cheap sounds cheap.
Cheap.
Frugal meaning I like to spend my money in the most advantageous way and make sure we get the best deal possible. So based on that, we have a router here that's what they call...
Living in a world so divided, not united. Nation fight against nation, Ism and schism and denomination. Tribal war, urban war, what is all this killing for? Racial and ethnic religious war, life's not worth killing for. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a world of disarray, so much catastrophe, toxic waste and pollution, choking creation, destroying the land, the sea and air, rainforest and atmosphere. Leaders of the world sit and stare and leave the rest in despair. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a world so unjust, who can you trust? Too much greed and corruption, staring in the face of starvation. Poverty is everywhere, while others waste what they could share. Heads of government sit and stare, they just don't care. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a world that is changing and rearranging, cataclysm and devastation, disease and destruction, natural disasters everywhere, across the land, the sea and air. Science and technology, beware, don't leave the world in despair. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. Living in a dangerous time, we have to see the signs. Living in a world so incomplete, righteousness is obsolete. No faith, no love, no devotion to the King of creation. Where will man be in the 21st century? What have we learned from 2,000 years of history? Living in a serious time, man, you have to be mind. time. Man, you have in mind, living in a dangerous time. We have to see the signs. Serious time, dangerous time. Serious time, dangerous time. Serious time, revelation time. You have to see the signs.
Are we back?
Yes, we're back.
We're back, folks.
Sorry about that. This whole thing with the animals is just going crazy. This lady's calling from Santa Rosa wanting to bring us more traps, and we want to thank her very much for that. That's great. So, yeah, Kathleen Vogt. And she is working with a group of animal people down there as in addition, I'm sorry. In addition to the wine country, yeah, so
Okay.
they're going to coordinate and get us some traps so we can start.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. Said it, folks. Everyone's helping. They're from Santa Rosa, right? If I heard
Yep.
that correctly. So you're typing away again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got
So
to follow up on this.
where did we leave off our conversation regarding?
I was given the overview of the meeting, which that was pretty much what I participated in. And also we had some discussions about the trees and the facts that the trees in Cobb are being cut down, but there is probably a pretty good reason for that in the sense that there's issues with trees that if they get burned on the exterior, the heat gets so hot, it actually damages the channels underneath the bark where the water goes up into the tree and distributes it. So what happens is the tree may look healthy, but then the bottom line is it's not going to get the water, and 2 or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it's going to fall over and hurt someone or something. So there is a reason why.
Well, if the bark's damaged, it opens up the ability for disease to come in a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. So disease is another problem, but the pine bark beetles have already destroyed so many anyway. There's a lot of these trees that look healthy but really aren't. So, you have a right to your own trees. And if they cut the trees, they have to leave them on your property. So if you're a property owner and you're worried about your trees, talk to Davey. They're the contractors that are doing the tree cutting, and PG&E is also doing it. Talk to them. Tell them you want that it's staying on the property, and go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but again, you've invited Sheriff Martin to be on the show. So hopefully in the next few weeks he'll be here, right?
Yeah, he's going to let me know what day and what time.
Right. And we were joking, well, semi-joking with Don Anderson, our lovely district attorney, during the Bill Dodd, Senator McGuire office opening, and we invited him on the show too. Hopefully he'll take that offer up. And then next week we have Peter Rumble from California Clean Energy. He'll be on our show.
Jim Bauer is going to come back when?
In a couple weeks.
Okay.
There's not a problem with that. And so we have some guests lined up, so you don't have to listen to us ramble for 3 hours.
Right.
So anyway, one of my things I am going to talk about, and then Mr. Murphy, who just submitted an article, is probably going to reiterate in a more stronger fashion than what I'm about to say. But on September 22nd, Board of Supervisors meeting, and if you go back to your calendar, folks, September 22nd, we were in the middle of the Valley Fire, where things were out of control. We're trying to find places for the evacuees to get some food and some shelter. The fire was raging. And things were in a mess in the sense of we're in a major disaster. So during this meeting, one of the agenda items was a pay increase for county employees. They approved the normal 3% COLA increase, which is what the employees have had every single year. So despite what people say that they haven't had a pay increase, in reality they have, because they have had a 3% increase in their pay every single year. The inflation during that same period has not been equal to 3%. So therefore, to me, it has been a slight increase in pay. The national average last year for the cost of living allowance, that's what COLA stands for, was nationwide was 1.3%. So the Lake County employees got over twice the average across the nation in a COLA increase. And that's cool. I mean, that's the way the union was negotiated. That's cool. Also in the negotiations, which were between the county employees union and the county, they were provided or given a 7% increase in salary. So between the cost of living and their salary, every county employee from the level entry position all the way up to department heads received a 10% increase effective as of July 1st of this year. So they're going to get retro pay for July, August, September, and part of October. So basically getting the 10% for over 3 months there. Now, during the meeting, when they approved this, now first of all I'm going to say that county employees may or may not deserve the increases. That's not up for me to say, because I don't know exactly what type of work they do, what type of effort they put forth, what type of performance reviews they get to determine if they are eligible for that type of increase. In private enterprise, you don't get a cross-the-board increase unless you're totally unionized. You get an increase based on your performance. So I'm always that way inclined. I don't think anyone should get a cross-the-board increase, but be that as may. I felt that agenda item could have been postponed to after the emergency situation in the county was under control or finished. Matter of fact, the fire is now 100% contained. So, so besides that not being postponed, it was approved by the board through their union negotiations. And then Supervisor Jim Comstock brought up an item and said, does that include the Board of Supervisors or the individual supervisors? And Matt Perry, who's the head of our admin area, spoke up and said, yes, you are all considered management, therefore you get the same increase. You get a 3% COLA and a 7% increase in pay. So the Board of Supervisors, whose salary, not including benefits right now, is $63,000, is getting an over a $6,000 increase. So their total pay is going to be very close to $70,000 a year, plus the retirement and health benefits.
To work 3
weeks.
Tuesdays a month, not weeks, days.
Tues.
They're only required 3 days. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't do other stuff in the meantime.
Yeah, but if you listen to the
$66,000 plus benefits for 3 meetings a month.
Right. Now, they do work.
They're doing 25% less work for a 10% pay raise.
Right. Now, it's not to say that's all they do. They do have some work they do during the course of the week, but if you ever listen to their weekly calendars, they probably work 10 hours a week. So they work about 13 to 15 hours a week to earn $70,000 plus a year. So my point here is not how much they're earning, which I'll address here in a second, is that they basically received a 10% increase. They voted on during the course of a meeting, during the course of the Valley Fire, and did not allow the public to participate in public comment and in comment regarding this particular agendized item.
Well, they didn't realize that they were eligible at the time, so you can't expect them to do a public comment when they didn't really know that they were eligible for
you would have thought, again, I'm just thinking ahead here, folks, is that Matt Perry would have explained all this during the negotiations with the union. Now, if a union gets an increase, how does that apply to management and elected officials? It is a union negotiation. They are not part of the union. So I disagree with Matt Perry unless he can show me that they actually are part of the union. Because the county employees have their own separate union, to the best of my knowledge. Therefore, if the Board of Supervisors is negotiating a contract with the employee union of Lake County, how can they participate in the same increase? That's a conflict of interest. I don't give a damn what Matt Perry says. It is a conflict. And the board should have just said, no, even though we may be eligible, we're not going to take it because it's a conflict of interest and it's self-serving. And if they were not aware of this, then they're not doing their job, and it's up to Matt Perry and his department to notify the supervisors that they are included in this increase. However, what Mr. Phil Murphy pointed out to me the other day, and I'm giving him full credit for making me aware of this, is that in the history of Lake County, as far as he has been here, any pay increase for the supervisors of Lake County were approved or declined at a separate agendized item. It was not included with any negotiations or approval of the county's employees union. So why all of a sudden during the Valley Fire, a meeting that was during the Valley Fire, that all of a sudden did they get included in a union pay increase? That doesn't make sense to me. And if I'm wrong in my understanding of the union and the supervisors and department heads, I'll get on the next show and say I interpret the information incorrectly. But logically speaking, it doesn't make sense. Now, on that note though, because I'm not a know-it-all, even though some people think I am, I sent an email out to each individual supervisor. I did that Monday at lunchtime. Tuesday morning, I received a response from board chairman, Anthony Farrington. So I'm going to give Anthony full kudos for at least responding to my email. And during this email, I asked as questions, can you please verify that yes, you did get this increase? Can you verify that yes, you are considered a management, therefore you're allowed to have this pay increase? And that, and I had one other 2 points which I can't remember offhand, but the point is, his response was, yes, we are considered management per Matt Perry. We did not purposely have this item on the agenda during the Valley Fire and emergency, and that this was not a big deal because the negotiating with the unit had already been settled. This was just a final approval on public record. So I give kudos for Anthony for providing me the information. It was done in a very polite, professional manner, but I disagree with him because, again, my wife pointed out they didn't understand at the time that they were part of management, but I put the onus back on admin, Mr. Matt Perry, for not informing them of that. So I think it should have been postponed with proper communication. So I'm a little bit bent out of shape that the supervisors, we're included? Oh, okay, thank you. In addition to that, if you read the minutes of the meeting, it'll show that the sheriff's union, law enforcement union, the Lake County Sheriff's Union, did not receive a 7% increase. They received a 10% increase. So they received a 3% COLA plus an additional 10%. So they have a 13% increase. And that goes from, now, does that include Sheriff Martin? As the elected sheriff, is he included in this pay increase? If he's not, then what makes the supervisors different than Sheriff Martin? If Sheriff Martin is included, and he has no choice, it either is or is not, he has no say in the matter, then why would a sheriff who's an elected official be included in management and part of the union? So there's contradictory things here, folks, and I don't understand how this works, and I think Mr. Phil Murphy does understand how it works, and that's why he sent us an editorial. But I'm really bent out of shape that our admin of this county did not provide the necessary information to the supervisors prior to the meeting and prior to the union negotiations. That's no difference than me saying to my employees that would have been unionized, say, okay guys, you want a 10% increase in pay? Cool, I also get the same thing. I can't negotiate a contract for the benefit of my company where I'm included in that negotiations for being a recipient of that pay increase. It doesn't make sense. To me, it's a total conflict of interest, and I think that's something that, if it's true, that the grand jury of this county needs to take up and investigate and take it as far as they need to, because it is conflict of interest. It's as simple as that. You cannot negotiate a contract that you participate in. And again, the supervisors were not aware of that. Fine, I understand that. But why is our admin, why aren't our department heads telling the supervisors that this is the way it's happening, so they can, I don't know, if it's part of the county ordinance, then we can't do about it. But at least the supervisors were made aware of it. And again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, is that in the history of Lake County, since Mr. Murphy had been here, and I want to confirm this, the supervisors have always brought up their own pay increases as a separate agenda item, and has never been tied to a union contract negotiation. So why did they change this now and have this meeting during the Valley Fire? I think it was just a way of making sure there was enough public comment so they could get away with what they want. So on that note, that is my, let me check my notes here, folks, make sure I didn't overlook anything, because remember, I am brain damaged. Okay, let me see what else I got here. Oh, the other response was that from Mr. Farrington, Supervisor Farrington, is that Supervisor Steele and Supervisor Farrington are looking into Matt Perry's opinion to determine if he's correct or not correct. And if he's not correct, I'm sorry, folks, this is the head honcho of admin. He needs to be accountable for his comments. And I know through rumors, because I can't verify because I haven't spoken to these individuals, that the supervisors may not be exactly having full confidence in Mr. Perry's work at this point in time. And if this is true, that he's offered this opinion that they are included in the salary increase when they're not really, he needs to be accountable for that and potentially disciplined. So again, Mr. Steele, Mr. Farrington are looking into this matter. I did do some research on my own. The U.S. Labor Department, and the department which goes through the labor laws and classify elected officials as, excuse me, let me rephrase that. They consider elected officials non-employees. Now, that doesn't mean they don't get a paycheck. That doesn't mean they don't pay Social Security, Medicare, and income taxes. But for all extensive purposes, for the counties or the state, they are not employees, which means if you're not an employee, you cannot be part of a union, and therefore you cannot get compensated for any increases in pay that unions have negotiated. Now, from the IRS point of view, yeah, they are employees. But for elected officials, they're not considered employees. And I could not see anything different in the California statutes that would change that classification. So maybe that's why all the way up to this year, the supervisors had to vote their own increase and have it part of the community and part of the public comment. They were not part of the union negotiations and increases. So there's definitely a conflict here. And I don't know if the state overrides the Fed on this point. That's information I'm going to do some research on. I'm also going to send another email out to the supervisors to find out if what they can do, and especially Mr. Steele and Farrington, if they can do some research on that and make Mr. Perry do the research on that. So there's more to this story than meets the eye, I think. And as we gather more information, I'm sure we will bring it to you, and we'll also put it onto our magazine at lakecountymagazine.com, because something stinks here, folks. And
it's just
right. And one
I don't know
last.
if it's stinky, if it's just weird.
Okay, I'll use the word weird. And one last comment is that I do appreciate Supervisor Farrington's response to me. It does not matter if I agree with it or not. It doesn't matter if he agrees with my comments or not. The point is, he responded. He communicated with me as an individual and as Lake County Magazine. Not one other supervisors responded to my email. And that includes Jim Steele, which I'm disappointed about, because Jim's supposed to be pretty good at communicating. Jim Comstock didn't do it. Rob Brown, who we are living in his district, did not respond. And Jeff Smith did not respond. And I'm calling them out. Their job is to represent the people of this county. They're here to communicate with individuals and with media so we can get the facts straight. And if I'm wrong, folks, I'm the first one to tell you I'm wrong, and I will admit it on air to that extent. I just don't get it, why they can't respond. I guarantee they respond to the other online newspaper in this town. They don't respond to us. And honestly, Lake Co News sued the sheriff. I'm not beneath suing the county and the supervisors for not providing us the same information they provide the other media. So I'm going to send out another email either this evening or first thing tomorrow morning asking them why they didn't respond, and also asking them why their status is different than what the U.S. Labor Board says they are. So if you have any comments on that, or you have any additional information that I may not have, you can call in at 701-6029 or Facebook us, and we'll follow up and appreciate any information we can get, because again, I'm not 100% familiar with how government works in this state. I don't think anyone is an expert on government in this state. So I would like to know more about it. And Phil, if you're listening, appreciate your comments also. So on that note, you want to go through his editorial?
Yes.
And sorry for ranting like that, folks, but it really upsets me that you change your attitude in midstream. Anyway, go for it.
It's called The Right Priorities, and it will be posted in Lake County Magazine later today. In the days following, this is by Phil Murphy. In the days following the start of the Valley Fire, there are many actions our County Board of Supervisors could have taken to increase the safety of local residents, like reactivating the warning sirens that were mysteriously disabled in spite of the county's 2009 Community Wildfire Prevention Plan, which called for more sirens and upgrades for older ones within 5 years. Simple, low-cost improvements like staffing the fire lookout on Mount Conocti with volunteers or banning activities like mowing after noon have not been considered. So we are left with a dysfunctional warning system that depends entirely on the extremely unreliable reverse 911 phone system that failed almost immediately in the Valley Fire. However, the BOS was able to perform other tasks in recent days, like giving pay raises to all county staff, including the department heads who failed to do their jobs in the Valley Fire. The BOS also managed to give themselves a hefty 10% raise without any public outcry, because for the first time they quietly changed the process to include themselves with other management personnel. Yes, well, I asked for water and she gave me gasoline. That's my woman. She loves me so much, she wants to kill me. Yeah.
Well, you know, these days, gasoline, well, actually, water is more expensive than gasoline.
Almost.
It is.
Well,
I mean,
it's about $1. Yeah, no. A gallon of water is about $2 if you buy it in the grocery store.
Is it? I thought it was more than that.
Yeah. Not yet, but it's getting there.
Okay, so this guy was getting gasoline at that time where I guarantee was more expensive than water. So why is he whining?
Because he was asking for water, and she gave him gasoline
Yeah,
to
but
drink.
But he could have. Oh.
To drink.
So you could have sold the gas.
Sorry, God. What?
He could have sold the gasoline and then bought water.
I'm kicking you all the time. You're laying right at my feet. I'm sorry.
Come on, Jenks.
I'm sorry, Jenkins.
We call him Mini-Me.
Because he looks like a miniature, a
Something.
gray version of Sydney.
You've heard him. He won't even.
I know. He's all all messed up. I'm sorry. I keep
Anyway,
with my foot. I'm sorry.
as my wife does that during this intellectual, controversial, opinionated show.
Yes, full of love from the Love Muffins.
We actually do our
fur baby love. Look at this.
Oh.
Fur baby love.
We are full of love, folks. No matter what our attitudes are towards certain subjects in this county, who could not love this face? Who could not love this face? And that one.
There's a face. Yes.
So.
He's a little face.
Hello. We only had one song.
He's little Jenkins. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Jenkins, and I call him Jenks, Mini Me,
yes.
Runt.
Yes, and he still goes right under my feet,
and
so I can kick him again.
What's wrong with Sydney? She wants to play.
She's antsy.
Yeah.
She wants to play.
Yeah.
She wishes that Mini-Me was about 3 times bigger so she could actually sink her teeth into
It's actually funny, there we go, how they've gotten used to each other. And every time we let them out the patio door, Sydney runs out, and Mini-Me's either been stepped on or runs right underneath her. Okay, you're reading stuff again.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to continue talking.
I'm just catching up.
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to catch up. Well, I'd rather catch up now than at 12 o'clock at night. How's that?
I have to do it then, too.
Oh. You wonder why she can't think. By the way, folks, the 49ers stink this year.
Yeah, but Oakland's doing pretty damn
I give Oakland credit. I've always liked Oakland.
That's why I like them both.
No, you don't.
Yes,
you know nothing about football.
I still have to have my teams.
Well,
I have to support both of our Bay Area
teams. And what did the Arizona Cardinals do to the 49ers 2 weeks ago? They crushed them. Absolutely crushed
you
them.
bragging? How many times have the Arizona Cardinals been crushed themselves?
Except for the last 2 years, a hell of a lot. Yeah, but most of the time they were St. Louis Cardinals. I didn't care. So, anyway. And NBA basketball starts, and the Golden State Warriors are raring to go. The problem is their coach, Steve Kerr, had back surgery during the offseason, and he really is still a lot of pain. So he has taken a leave of absence for a month or so to heal and be able to properly coach the basketball team. And believe it or not, Luke Walton is taking over. He was the bench coach and now is taking over as temporary head coach. Does anyone know who Luke Walton is? Does anyone know how he performed as a basketball player? Now, Luke Walton is the son of, I forgot his first name. Walton, who was an NBA star, tremendous star in college and the NBA. And Luke Walton played for UCLA, sorry folks, Los Angeles Lakers for a few years. He was a good substitute rotation type player, but nothing outstanding. So all of a sudden he's the bench coach, and now he's the head coach of the Warriors. I find that kind of humorous because he really didn't have a lot of background, but he might be a smart dude and understand the game. So Steve Kerr is out for a while. Hopefully that won't affect the Golden State Warriors. And I've kind of sort of adopted them as a hometown team because they got some good ball players. I still root for the Phoenix Suns, though. And you just okay. This is my show today, folks. So you got to put up with me. My wife here is distracted by kitty cats and Facebook messages.
Yeah.
So,
I know. It's just too much work going on. Sorry, guys. I just look at these poor kitties that have been burned, and
I know.
I can't help.
And let's see. Well, San Jose Sharks start play. I think tonight's the first of official season game. Here we go. And the Sharks player, I saw this the other day, during a preseason game, Rafael Torres, who actually used to play for the Phoenix the Coyotes, did one of these really nasty checks against another player, and he went with his stick and his shoulders head first into the other player's face, just like that, which is an illegal check. You're literally going for the head, which could have significant consequences. So he was suspended for 41 games, and rightfully so, which is half of the regular season. So he can kiss his butt goodbye for half a season, and he's lost millions of dollars in salary because once you get suspended, you don't get paid. So, so that's it. But anyway, they start their season. They're trying to recapture their talent and their winning ways from last season. So that's enough of that. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to fill in information since I'm in charge today.
I'm sorry. I'm useless today.
Well,
but I worked yesterday.
Not on the show, you didn't.
And you didn't do nothing but go to the doctor.
I worked when I got home.
Uselessly.
Yeah, I worked when I got home.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. So.
Yes, you did.
Okay, we were supposed to have a guest at 10 o'clock, Mr. Jim Bauer, who was a... Did you really have to yawn in my ear?
Oh, sorry. I forget my microphone's right there.
Yes. Mr. Jim Bauer, who is a very, very nice gentleman, who is now the foreman of the local Lake County Grand Jury. This is his second year. He was on our show last year, and honestly, and he admitted to this, he was not quite prepared to come on our show and discuss the responsibilities of his duties here. And he was much more prepared. He had a year underneath his belt, and he really wanted to get into the subject of the grand jury. But I do know that one of his major concerns is the lack of interest of people wanting to participate on the grand jury. I believe, and don't hold me to this because I just remember talking to him briefly, there are 19 members of the grand jury, and that is by state law. It's based on the population size of each county, and we're just over the population base where we'd only need 11 grand jurors, but because our population exceeds that level, we're required by law to have 19 grand jurors. I believe right now we have 11, give or take one or two. I can't remember what he told me. So we are violating state law by not meeting the needs of the individuals on the grand jury. Now, whose fault is that? It's not the foreman's fault, because he's just there to follow the laws regarding grand juries. I don't see any marketing, that's not the right word, any publicity in requesting people to become jurors. I don't believe the county is doing it, which is their responsibility, because this is a county organization. I don't see any of the media, including ourselves to a certain extent, not promoting this, but media can only do it based on press releases, and that's why Mr. Bauer approached us to see if he could come on the radio again and provide us updated information. So for once, I did some research, and what are you shaking your head for?
I'm not. I'm listening to you.
Okay. I actually did some research.
Why are you so defensive?
Because I'm married to you.
Oh, you son of a... You might not be for long.
I beg your pardon.
Keep that up.
I love her, dear. I love him, folks. I really do.
I'm just glad today's turned out to be a relaxing day. Sorry we haven't been that informative.
Actually, we have been today.
No,
I take that back. Yes, we have been.
Yes, we have, but I've been distracted.
That's okay. She is so concerned about these animals and what she's doing to rescue them that she is concentrating on that.
It's distracting.
So that's why you're stuck with me doing most of the commentary. But anyway, as far as I can see, and I do review other media in this county just because there's stuff that I don't know that we may not report on, so I can be more informed. But I've not seen any real marketing or advertising for people to become jurors on the grand jury. I think it's more word of mouth. Say, oh, I was on it last year, and it's kind of pretty cool. Why don't you join me this year? That's probably word of mouth type thing. But we are missing roughly 8 jurors, and the grand jury cannot convene and do their job until all positions are filled. That's the law. So they are not able to start working. Now, I'm going to go through this because this was, whoops, wrong one. Where am I? There it is. I've highlighted some. There's a booklet that the California Grand Juror Association has issued, and you can go to www.cga.org. So that's California Grand Jury Association. I'm sorry, that's a J. Never mind. It's www.cgja.org. Sorry, the printout I have here, folks, it's hard to read.
That is hard to read.
Yeah, okay.
Jeez.
I know. So anyway, so www.cgja.org. And there's a booklet that the California Grand Jury Association issues that provides you a detailed explanation of what the grand jury is and how it works. So last night, trying to be prepared for Mr. Bauer, who is a very intelligent gentleman, asked a lot of questions, so he has a good understanding of the subject matter. And since I wasn't very familiar with this, I decided to go through this. I'm going to talk about some highlighted areas which I think all of the public should be aware of. And I highly recommend every one of you who are listening, and I think I'm going to publish a little quick article on it in our magazine. Not one for having more jurors come up forward, but because of how the grand jury works and what the law states on how it's supposed to work. And based on my personal understanding and my personal observations of our grand jury system here, they do the best job they can. However, I don't know if they're getting the reaction that's required or the cooperation that's required. So anyway, the role of the grand jury is to review the operations of all local governments within the jury's county to determine if those local governments are operating to the highest possible level of efficiency and service.
Doesn't matter that they have to answer to the district
attorney.
Well,
they don't, only on criminal investigations.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, they're answered to the Board of Supervisors. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's take an example of what we just went through with the Valley Fire, the Jerusalem Grade Fire, and the Rocky Fire. We all know, as we just talked about for lengthy periods of time, about the disaster of the disaster. And this is something that I'm going to bring forth to the grand jury when they have the required number of members to investigate. Why did this happen? What was the disaster plan in effect? This is what the grand jury is all about. It's not just, oh, he committed this or he did rob this. These are civil matters and making local county government accountable for their jobs and their actions. So that's what the grand jury is all about. Unfortunately, the investigative role of California's regular grand juries is not well understood by most citizens. So what that's saying and ad libbing is that most of the citizens, the public, don't have a clue of what the grand jury is and what its responsibilities are. And that's not to be a negative or derogatory comment to you listening. It's the fact that I didn't have a clue. And I consider myself somewhat intelligent, somewhat versed in subjects. To me, a grand jury is strictly a criminal organization. This is not. This is a civil, even though they can address criminal if and when necessary, i.e., if they felt a government official was committing embezzlement or fraud or was on the take, they would then be able to investigate that and bring it to the DA's office for review. Okay. Again, there's just items that I've highlighted. What kinds of people serve as grand jurors? They should be able to take an unbiased look at the way government works and, when necessary, offer solutions or suggest more efficient management of operations. They also need to possess some strong personal initiative and high energy. That makes sense. Because this is a full-time job, folks. This is not just a volunteer one day a week type thing. Above all, a good juror is curious about how his or her government works and how it can be improved. Grand jurors come from all lifestyles and bring their life experiences to the process. So once again, a grand juror is to oversee and inquire and investigate any and all concerns about our government here. And these could be their own concerns, or they could be concerns of the public. All you have to do is make a note or communicate with the grand jurors and say, you know, I don't know how this works, or I'm really not that well informed. I really think that there could be improvement here, and here's the reason why. It is the responsibility of the grand juror to investigate that, and there has to be a minimum of 2 jurors to investigate any complaint or inquiry. It's just not one person. Try to avoid the biasness that could take place here. They are then to present their findings to the grand jury and the foreman, and upon agreement, they then submit that to the Board of Supervisors. If it's an immediate inquiry, they can do it prior to their report, or they can do it in their annual report. That is presented to the Board of Supervisors and is available to the public at any time. I believe it's also on the Lake County website once it's published.
Yes.
Thank you. And this whole book gives you the whole history of the grand jury, how it came out of England during constitutional law. It's actually very well informative, but I'm not going to bore you with that information. You can look up yourself. Just going through here, some more highlights. Actually, Pennsylvania was a state that also incorporated it. In 2008, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger declared February of each year as Grand Jury Awareness Month. Many counties duplicated this declaration by issuing their own proclamation of support. Okay, I don't know if Lake County did that or not. Okay, here we go. The grand jury is... sorry, folks. My mouse is not working with my fingers well. Okay. The grand jury is based on California law, and it's the penal code starting with section 888. States a grand jury is a body of citizens of the county to inquire of public offenses committed or triable within the county. One grand jury in each county should be charged and sworn to investigate matters of civil concern. That kind of reiterates what we said in the beginning. An important court decision states, in our system of government, a grand jury is the only agency free from possible political or official bias that has an opportunity to see the operation of the government on any broad basis. I'm going to repeat that. In our system of government, a grand jury is the only agency free from possible political or official bias. Do you think that happens in Lake County?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's nothing I'm going to get into right now because this is just an overview of what the grand jury is. However, we do have personal opinions on that. Okay, I'm still continuing scrolling through this whole massive booklet. It's like 56, 60 pages.
It's huge. Part of the problem, I think, with getting good people to be on the jury is that it's so complicated and time-consuming. There's so much that you need to know. There's also so much time you have to commit.
Well, besides the regular meeting of the jurors together, they have their subcommittees, for better choice of words, that have to meet once or twice a week. Then they have their own investigative work by calling people in for interviews, for better choice of words, or testimony. Okay. There are what they call watchdog oversight, which is obviously self-explanatory. Penal Code 916 is the source of the grand jury's authority to decide for itself what of the things it is empowered to do, it wants to do, and how to do it, and how much energy to spend doing it. It provides in part, each grand jury shall choose its officers except the foreman, and shall determine its rules of proceeding. Adoption of its rules of procedure and all public actions of the grand jury, whether concerning criminal or civil matters, unless otherwise prescribed in law, including adoption of final reports, shall be only with the concurrence of that number of grand jurors necessary to find an indictment pursuant to Section 940. So basically it says the grand jury is an independent body. They can formulate their own rules and procedures in following the state law. So they have some leeway of how they operate internally from county to county. Rules of procedure shall include guidelines for that grand jury to ensure that all findings, including in its final reports, are supported by documented evidence including official records or interviews attended by no fewer than 2 grand jurors, and that all problems identified in the final report are accompanied by suggested means for their resolution. That kind of goes back to a certain extent about my prior communication, today's show, that Anthony Farrington stated that their increase was recognized and should have been implemented 10 years ago because that's what the grand jury recommended. So they have recommendations, they cannot dictate. And then it's up to the board of supervisors to enact those recommendations or not. And in our current case, they decide to react to it 10 years later.
Well, I would suggest that rather than going through this entire booklet for the rest of this half hour, that we save some of this for next week when Mr. Bauer
I was just trying to give.
will be here.
That's right. I was trying to give the people an overview.
It's a very good overview, but I'd like to also talk a little bit about the TPP.
The who?
The TPP, the toilet paper production.
I know what it means. Okay.
Go ahead. Toilet paper production.
Really? But Australia's. I know. And that could be very important for Australia because they still have a lot of outhouses in the outback.
Exactly. So the Trans-Pacific Partnership has been made into law now.
And you actually said that.
Yes, I did.
Trans-Pacific
Partnership. TPP.
Yes.
It's a new high-standard trade agreement that levels the playing field, supposedly, for American workers and American businesses supporting. This is all from the U.S. government's page, by the way. Supporting more made-in-America exports and higher-paying American jobs by eliminating over 18,000 taxes in the forms of tariffs that various countries put on made-in-America products. TPP makes sure our farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and small businesses can compete and win in some of the fastest-growing markets in the world. So it eliminates over 18,000 different taxes made in America exports. It includes the strongest worker protections of any trade agreement in history, includes the strongest environmental protections of any trade agreement, helps small businesses benefit from global trade, promotes e-commerce, protects digital freedom, preserves an open internet, levels the playing field for U.S. workers by disciplining state-owned enterprises, prioritizes good governance and fighting corruption, includes first ever development chapter, and capitalizes on America's position as the world leader in service imports. So the rules of TPP, they say it strengthens our economy. There's no proof of that yet. It ensures that global economy reflects our interests and values by requiring other countries to play by fair wage, safe workplace, and strong environmental rules. Needless to say, China is not included in this. And it reinforces our commitment to the region. Okay. To me, that's not enough. If you go to the website ustr.gov, rather, I guess that's ustrade.gov, ustr.gov, you'll get to see this whole website basically that looks to me like a big propaganda source.
Well, of course it is.
I'd like to know.
It's by the government. It's a government website.
Exactly. So I just think that we need to look at the TPP from a different set of eyes and kind of get an idea of really what it's all about.
Yeah, it depends upon what side of the fence you want to be on. It is supposed to promote trade between the participating countries without a lot of tariffs being put into place, which would increase theoretically our economy if we're buying goods from other countries at better prices, which mean lower retail prices, which allows the public with their disposable income to purchase more.
And that is the typical Republican perspective.
On the other hand,
according to publiccitizen.org,
go ahead.
They're saying that it would expand the North American Free Trade Agreement, the same model that has spurred massive U.S. trade deficits and job loss, downward pressure on wages, unprecedented levels of inequality, and new floods of agricultural imports. It not only replicates but expands NAFTA's special protections for firms that offshore U.S. jobs. and U.S. TPP negotiators literally used the 2011 Korea FTA, under which exports have fallen and trade deficits have surged, as the template for the TPP. In one fell swoop, this secretive deal, because they made all these agreements without any transparency, could offshore American jobs and increase income inequality, jack up the cost of medicines, sneak in the SOPA-like threats to internet freedom, empower corporations to attack our environmental and health safeguards, expose the U.S. to unsafe food and products, roll back Wall Street reforms, ban Buy American policies needed to create green jobs, and undermine human rights. Although it's called a free trade agreement,